Okay, I'm now going to go ahead, I'm going to stitch the sleeve into the garment. So I'm going to put it under my pressure foot, and I always sew from the sleeve side because that's the one that's easy to get tucks. Now that doesn't mean I won't get any tucks on the other side, but I'm just going to go ahead and put this down, my needle down, and my presser foot, and then I'm going to take this out, the pin, and when I stitch, I can adjust it last minute to make sure it's nice and smooth and there's no tucks. Now there might end up with a few tucks, but if I do, I just take it out, like maybe just a little space right there, and redo it. I don't need to back stitch here because I'm going to come back around and go over top of those stitches, and then I'll back stitch. So right now I'm just going to start sewing at my 5/8, and I'm going to sew with white thread on this lovely blue frozen guy fabric, so that you can see it. But normally I would match my thread with the background color so that it doesn't show through. Okay, and then take out your pins right before you get to them. And if you need to go kind of slow here to keep your 5/8, there's nothing wrong with going slow. Sometimes we think we have to speed through this, but it's not very speedy when you do it wrong and you have to redo it. Now, when I get over to this side, my E-stitching is just barely away from my 5/8. So as you can see, I'm sewing right beside the E-stitching. I don't really want to go back and take out E-stitching. So if I just sew beside it, keeping the E-stitching in the seam allowance, then it's not a problem. But that might have, yeah. So I sew a thread's width away. So what you can do is when you're E-stitching, you can E-stitch it a thread's width away, or you can sew it together a thread's width away. One of the two. It's kind of a tongue twister. Okay, all right, so, okay, so far so good. Again, I just kind of sew to my next pin where I've got it, and I keep it nice and smooth right here. And again, it's ripply on the outside. I don't care about that. I just keep it smooth. And so right beside it, on the garment side, looks like there's a pin falling out. Okay, pins, stay where you're supposed to. Oh, okay, yeah, sometimes the pins fall out. I just put them back in. Okay, keep that seam open here. Now I'm coming around the very top of the sleeve cap, and again I've got to sew right close to my E-stitching, or I'm going to get some ripples or little tucks. Okay, so better to sew right on top of your E-stitching if you need to, and then take that out if it shows. So I think some of my E-stitching might end up showing. Okay, and I'm going to lift up my pressure foot and get that down where it goes, because that edge is kind of flopping around. And see, it kind of gets in my way. There we go. Okay. If you can put in a sleeve with no ripples, no tucks, you're doing great. Because again, you've got these two curved edges. Okay, now I'm going to, my pin fell out here, so I'm going to stick another one in because I want to keep my raw edges even. And remember, we're pinning right where we sew, because that pinning is like a form of basting. You're pin basting. So you've got to put it where you need it. And I don't need it out here somewhere. I need it where my seam allowance is, or my seam line is going to be, I should say. Okay, so let's bring that in line. Okay, I'm getting near to the bottom where it starts to flatten out. So I can go a little bit faster. Okay. Take that pin out. Okay, keep those raw edges together. Okay, now I'm going back over top of my original stitching. I went over it about 3 stitches, back stitch, and done. Okay, now let me show you, let's look at it and see how we did. Okay, so we finished sewing the seam, and I sewed it from the inside all the way around, matching up the markings I had. I was able to, all the raw edges are evenly, they're stitched together, like they're stayed together. Now let's, for the true test, let's see what it looks like on the outside. Okay, so there we go. Look at the seam is nice and smooth. Okay, we don't have any, so far, tucks. Let's see how we do here. Very good, no tucks. Maybe, well, actually I could just press that. That just needs to be pressed. But look at that, that looks great. See, look at, beautiful. And this, look how nice that matches up. So everything looks fantastic.